Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. We are brought to you by the one and only Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pie sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Make sure you mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. I have to say this because me and my friends have been talking about like cheesesteaks and everything. How the cheesesteak game in South Jersey has really gone up and like gotten really, really good. Baggio's apparently is very, very like they are in competition with some of the heavy hitters in South Jersey. Like you're talking about like Mama's Meatballs, Chicks, the new chest steaks. So Mama's Meatballs and chest steaks, they get their bread from Baggio's Bread. So that should tell you something. So if you're interested in trying a phenomenal cheesesteak or any sandwiches, make sure you check out Baggio's Bread. We are live. Eagles Talk. It's myself, Chucks, your boy Chucks. It's Brinks, and it's PY is back from work. Mr. I'm growing out a beard again. Fellas, as I said backstage before we started the show, we've got a good amount to talk about. It worked out for us because half the amount of news have dropped the past 2 days, especially today, regarding the Eagles and the NFL. So we got a lot to talk about for a mid-May show. So how are you guys feeling? How are you doing today? What's going on?
I'm feeling good. Ready to talk some birds. Let's go.
I feel like death.
You feel like that? When do you not feel like death? You always feel like death.
Yeah,
Not my fault. I'm asthmatic.
Oh my gosh, always something with you. But we're glad to have you back after an unplanned absence from last week's show. So
Yeah, right.
Good to have you back. Les was asking for you. So
Did you sell the car?
I sold the car, and then I had to go drop off someone's random plate because that person is a crazy person.
I've done
Well,
it
at
all.
least you got the sale. That's good. So we've got action-packed show, like we said. We're going to talk about the Eagles schedule. We're going to talk about the return of one Joe Douglas, what it means for this front office. And we're going to talk about potential rule changes that are going to be voted on within the next 2 days at the spring meetings for the NFL. So I'm sure there's a lot to debate about. I'd be surprised if we agree on everything, but who knows? We'll see. But let's kick it off, starting with our poll question and our first topic, which has to do with the schedule, which came out last week, Wednesday. So it's been out for a little while, but we haven't talked about the full schedule release just yet. So let's talk about it. Having no back-to-back home games in 2025 will be extremely difficult for the Eagles. Agree or disagree? PY, since you weren't here last week, let us know. What do you think? You agree or disagree with this poll question?
I mean, I agree based on like who they're going to be playing in this season. Like you're starting off with the Cowboys and then the Chiefs. Like that's not exactly an easy start. Like not giving the Super Bowl champions a back-to-back home games in 2025 is a little ridiculous. There wasn't like one set of games back-to-back you could have given it to them. Aren't we like the only team in NFL history to win a Super Bowl and not have back-to-back home games?
I think so.
Which is an utterly ridiculous statement. And I hear people say, "Oh, we know that's just the way the schedule fell." Yeah, they put it together that way. Like you have your Super Bowl champion team. You should be trying to like do what you can to help them out. Like obviously, I don't need any like big time favors or anything, but like a few games back to back isn't hurting anyone. It's helping the Eagles, and it's helping your defending champions. Like it's making them look good. Like them just randomly not getting back-to-back home games makes no sense to me. But the NFL is going to do what it wants. You know, they want to hype up the rivalry games early. It seems they want all their big matchups at the beginning of the season, which makes no sense to me. But as we'll talk about the rule changes, the NFL is going to do what the NFL wants to do.
Those are some weird stances, but I'll get to my rebuttals. Brinks, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hard schedule I mean, obviously, we're looking at it here on May 19th. We don't know who's going to be good next year.
Nope.
We do, but we don't know anything. We can just roll back our playoff predictions from last year. I know mine weren't very good, but as it stands here on May 19th, this is a very difficult schedule. It's very difficult because you're on back-to-back home games, so you're on a plane every other week. I think it's also difficult because you start on Thursday now. I think they have another Thursday night game later in the season against New York somewhere. But, you're getting that mini bye week way too early. Now, they are positioned well with a week 9 bye week right in the middle of the season. And I believe the Giants, I think you have the graphic loaded up here.
Let's load it up. Then.
The Thursday Giants game is that week 6? Yeah, that's week 6. So you're really front loaded on your rest. And you play Washington 2 games in the last 3 weeks, which is by far, in my opinion, our biggest competition in the division. So it's an extremely, extremely difficult schedule. You also, I mean, this is just coincidence, but you draw two divisions in the cycle that had 3 playoff teams last year. You have the AFC West. Obviously, you have the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. They all made the playoffs last year. And you play the NFC North, where you have Green Bay, you have Detroit, and Minnesota all went to the playoffs last year. So the schedule is very difficult as we sit here on May 19th. So I will agree to the poll question.
Yeah, I will, because of the way it's worded, I'll say disagree, because that's what I said, extremely difficult. I don't think it's extremely difficult. It doesn't make things harder. Yeah, it does. So I'll give him that. I just don't think it's, while it makes it harder and tougher, and it is unfortunate, I don't think that's going to make or break the Eagles schedule or the Eagles record and whatnot. But I find it a little funny. PY, like a lot of your points you were trying to make, that you got to cut some slack to your Super Bowl champions, to the Eagles, make things a little easier. Since when does the NFL do that? The NFL doesn't do that. They make a schedule, and if anything, they believe in parity, so they're going to try to make things more difficult for the better teams, while making things harder, while making things easier for the lesser teams, because they want that balance and want that parity. So I definitely disagree with your take that the Eagles should have gotten a little bit of a nicer schedule in that regard. I think that's kind of silly to expect. It's a little naive, and it's not the way the NFL works. So I definitely disagree with that. While I will say that the schedule, it does appear to be difficult, I also think at the same time, guys, like the schedule is the schedule. Like I feel like every year, as long as the Eagles have been good the year prior, every year there's a reason to say the Eagles have a difficult schedule. Like, and there's always something for fans or media to pick something out regarding the Eagles schedule that's like, oh, there's gonna be a tough stretch, or like this is, I don't know how to get through this, and it's always something. But like you said, Rob, we don't know how things are, how good or bad teams are going to be going into next season. Like we can assume the Chiefs, we can assume the Rams, we can assume the Packers, the Lions, we can assume the Bills. So yeah, 100%, we can assume they're going to be good, but do we know exactly how they're going how good they're going to be? We don't know what injuries are going to take place. We don't know like how teams are going to develop or regress, and so it's hard for me to really. And this is how my mindset's been for like years. It's like when I look at a schedule, I'll look at it from a macro point of view, and say, okay, like from big picture, how do I look at the schedule? I never get into the trap of looking at it from a micro point of view and going week by week and saying, oh, this is this is bad or this is bad or this is bad. Like, I don't do that because you just don't know from week to week as the season progresses how things are going to look. So, yeah, the no back-to-back home games makes it a little tougher. I 100% agree. I don't think it's extremely tougher for them to get over no back-to-back home games. It is what it is. They have a lot of primetime games. They have a couple more standalone games, and you just gotta. That's the nature of winning the Super Bowls. You're going to be in the spotlight more, and you're going to have more games that are spotlighted toward you, and the focus will be on you more. And it comes with the territory. It happens with every year. So, yeah, I disagree because of the way the whole question is worded. I don't think it's extremely difficult. It does them no favors. It makes it tougher, but at the same time, I'm someone who will always believe that the schedule is the schedule. You play it, and like I will never like I there's people always find something to complain about or to pick about the schedule to say like it's a difficult thing. I just don't get caught up into that because it's so early and we don't know how teams are going to be. So, well, let's bring in Les Bowen. Les, how are you?
Great, Chucks. How are you?
I'm doing so well. We were just talking about the schedule, our first topic, and our poll question. And I'll bring it up. Is having no back-to-back home games, it will be extremely difficult for the Eagles. Agree or disagree? So, yeah, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to disagree just because of the word extremely.
I said the same thing.
Not great, but it, you know, where geographically the Eagles are situated very, very well. They don't have, like, if you're Seattle or somebody like that, you're flying to every game for hours and hours, every away game. The Eagles aren't in that position, and the big concern with not having back-to-back home games is your routine, getting your routine disrupted.
100%, yep.
With the Washington and New York games, the routine's not going to be disrupted. They're barely leaving home for those games.
Yep.
And even some of the road games aren't really like real bad flights. They do have a couple West Coast games this year, but I just don't see it as something that's really going to be, something you look at the end of the season and say, well, this is why things didn't go so well. I mean, it's not great, like a few other things with the schedule. It could be easier, but I don't. Extremely is a big word for me when you're talking about something like back-to-back home games. I just don't think that's. I think the positioning of the bye is important, and they have a very good spot there. They have some the way their non-Sunday games are concocted is they have some long weeks, going into the short weeks. So I don't, I think overall it's okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're on the same page here, Les. I don't. I think it's just a matter of like, it is what it is, right?
Right.
Every Super Bowl team is going to have difficult stretches. It's the NFL works on parity, so they're going to balance out in that way. Like they're going to, by nature, the way it's structured, the worst teams from the year before are going to have easier schedules, and every teams are going to have their benefits or lulls. And every year it seems like whenever the schedule comes out, every year, whether it be fans or media, they'll always pinpoint something to say, "Oh, this is a difficult stretch," or "This is going to be very, very difficult." Like I feel like every team has some type of difficult schedule. Almost every team. I get that we can look at it and say like this team maybe has an easier path and there are certain benefits, but Eagles have had those benefits too in years past. Like I don't know if I forget if it was the last year or the year before, where like we don't have to get it on a plane after a certain date. Like, exactly. So like we have benefits
Right.
in the schedule too. It is what it is. I'd never really overreact so much to a schedule, and because it's just so early and you don't know how things are gonna play out during the season. So.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so let's do this then. Like I know I hate the exercise of going week by week and saying win loss. I hate that exercise. I don't like it. So why don't we do this? Why don't each of us say one game on the schedule that we've circled for whatever reason it is. Pick a game that you're just eyeing, like, oh, I'm interested in that game for this reason or that reason. So Les, we'll start with you. Give us one game that you've got circled.
Oh, okay. Well, I hadn't thought about this until just now. There are two that I could pick, and I'm going to decide between the two of them. One of them is at Tampa. I'm so tired of the Eagles losing at Tampa for no reason whatsoever. Tampa is not a better team than the Eagles and won't be a better team than the Eagles this season. So I'd like to see the Eagles win that game on September 28th. But then you have that, and I think this is going to be a popular choice, that Green Bay game with Green Bay leading the effort to get rid of the tush push this week, which I think will probably be successful just because Roger Goodell is bent on doing this for some reason. I don't understand it, but he is. So there'll be some bad feeling around that. So one of those two, I guess, would be my my game that I have scheduled. Maybe more Tampa Bay, really.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Before I get to our other answers, I want to get hit on the chat. So Ryan Sharp says he agrees to the poll, depending on what we'll be playing. Daly says he's going to agree every game in the NFL is difficult, but it's home field advantage, so there's a plus. He says ignore the second half of my comment. I misread the poll.
Okay.
Yeah, he also says, like you said, no NFL. In NFL, no game is easy. They're all difficult. SB Senior says disagree. Easy early games. So he thinks that the beginning of the schedule.
Do they have a lot of easy early games?
I
don't
mean,
see that at all. I don't see that at all.
Yeah.
The Rams, the Chiefs,
the Bucks, who were a playoff.
The Broncos are good.
Broncos are a playoff team. So yeah, I don't think I would. Again, it's hard to say like this early. We don't know how things are going to play out, but you could assume those are all playoff teams from the year before. So I don't know if I can say they're easy early games. So Daly says week 1 against the Cowboys, nothing like kicking off the season against a division rival. Yeah, we talked about that game last week, so definitely want to easily highlight. PY, you've been quiet and not been paying attention, so why don't you give us a game you've been circled on the Eagles schedule?
It's the Chiefs.
Okay.
Without question, because I want to go back in and I want to beat them up again. It's going to make me feel really happy. And because they're already talking about how, it's the new season. Why are you focused on that game? I said, because it's the last game that was played and we beat the living snot out of you.
And it was a Super Bowl. So, yeah. Yeah, I can see, obviously, that the Super Bowl rematch is going to be a big one. So I hear you on that. Brings, give us one.
October 5th against Denver.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm pretty high on Denver and what they're doing out there, even though I'm an outspoken, not Sean Payton guy. But, I mean, they're doing really, really well out there. If Bo Nix is for real and they just keep getting better on defense, they just keep adding to his strength, I think that's a potential Super Bowl matchup on October 5th. I think it's going to be fun. The weather should be good.
Yeah.
So there'll be no excuses on that front. Denver's coming east and starting at 1.
Yeah, I was going to point that out if you didn't.
That should be an advantage for the Eagles. And the Eagles very well could be 1-2 after going into that game.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. They could be 2-2. They could be. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they had a losing record going into that game. I mean, I don't know who commented about the easy early games, but this schedule is front loaded heavily, in my opinion. So, with the Eagles potentially needing the game, Denver being good, and I like that game a lot. I might have to get myself down to the link for that one, and we might see it. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but that could be a preview of a game that gets played in early February, in my opinion. So I think that's a big time matchup. I like it. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, good ones, good ones. I'm kind of surprised so I had 4 listed and I ranked them, and I'm kind of surprised that only one of them was mentioned by you guys, but in a good way. I thought one of you guys were really gonna highlight it. But the one game I'm circling is Week 17 against the Bills, because I think that the Bills are going to be a contending team once again, and that late in the season, you know that there are going to be implications for NFC and stuff, but it also could be. I mean, not. I know the Bills are AFC. I'm saying like for the Eagles' respect, playing that late in the season, there could be stuff on the line. So a big game, against a contending team that late in the season is going to be big, and it's away. And I think I was going to hit another point about it, but now I can't. It slips
Could
my
be a
mind.
weather game. Yeah, that
Weather
time
game,
of year,
yes.
Buffalo.
With it being in Buffalo, so it's just I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh, that is interesting. That's interesting. Now it's a 4:25 game, so it doesn't have to be prime time, but
It should be.
yeah,
Oh,
it should be. Yeah, it should be. It should be.
Could
I mean,
get
it's not. Yeah.
Could get flagged.
Could it be flexed? I don't know if it can be flexed.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea what the rules are.
Well, they keep changing the rules.
Week 16, it does give that option for 4:30 or 8 for the Commanders game. So I don't know if that shows that it is a flexible game, whereas Week 17 is not. I don't know. We'll see. But
they just do that. They just do that with the last week because they want all the teams that are contending for a playoff spot to play at the same time.
No, I'm talking about Week 16. Week 16, if you see here, it says 4:30. Week 4:30 or 8.
That's the Christmas doubleheader. That's the Saturday double. That's a Saturday game.
Yeah, so I'm saying like that is obviously that's flexible. So I don't know if they made it that way because it's showing the games that are flexible.
What are they going to switch the start time? Swap the start times?
I don't know.
The Bears
I don't know.
I mean, what if they do
I
that?
I don't know what the flex rules are. So yeah. So that was. But yeah, you're talking about Week 17 against the Bills. Potential Super Bowl preview. So I'm eyeing that. The other game I was eyeing is Week 11 against the Lions at home. Talking about a game that everyone had penciled in Eagles-Lions last year. We never got that matchup because the Lions just got so banged up that they finally
they keep chirping.
And so that's a matchup that everyone wanted to see. So we're all expecting the Lions and Eagles to be again NFC contenders. Les, you already mentioned the Packers one. And the other one, Week 3 against the Rams. I mean, the team that had the best chance of beating us in the playoffs, they're coming over here early in the year. So again, another West Coast team coming to Philly, playing at 1:00. So that gives us an advantage. So those are the games I was highlighting. Obviously, I tried to avoid the division games because there are always going to be games to look at. I always love the home game against the Giants because that's like I could always pencil that in as a win. It's also the blackout game. So I always love those games. So those in the fam who are chiming in, if you have a game that you're looking forward to, let us know. Matthew Wall says Chargers game might be tough too. So yeah, the Chargers are on the rise, so I can absolutely see that. Pete says, gentlemen, my football senses are tingling again. I don't know what that means, Pete, but if that means you can get on the show at some point soon, please come on with us. It's been way too long, and we miss you, so get on the show with us, man. Yeah. So and SJP is on.
Oh God.
Yeah. SJM. Sorry. He says, "Well, what up, fam? Back in the house on Joey D." So yeah. All right. So that's the Eagle schedule. I'm not going to dive into it more because I don't like going week to week. So that is what it is.
You don't like doing a full-on schedule breakdown like everyone else?
Nope, that's not me. I don't like doing that.
I don't even like doing it in September.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some power rankings. That's it. Nobody else does that.
I don't like doing that exercise. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about, and I don't, maybe Les can shine some light on this because he was a beat writer. I don't know if he was during this time, but the Joe Douglas has been brought back over to the Eagles organization. His tenure here with us was from 2016 to 2019. He was a much talked about front office person, very lauded by a lot of people. I have my own opinions, but Les, I want to get your opinion. Were you covering the Eagles still during that period?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
certainly. Yeah.
Perfect. So let us know, like, what is your knowledge of Joe Douglas, and what he brought to the table? Because one of the questions I want to ask, and I've always wondered, is just how much credit does he or blame? Just how much credit or blame does he really get for those drafts during that time frame? Because that's very very interesting to look at. So what do you know about Joe Douglas as he comes back?
Well, Joe's background was in Baltimore, which, especially at the time that he came here, was considered like a premier organization. And I guess it still is in terms of drafting and personnel evaluation. You're right. That was the narrative the whole time he was here. You know, what is he responsible for? What's Howie responsible for? Does Howie get the blame for this guy or the credit for this guy? Does Joe get the credit or the blame? And I don't think that was ever satisfactorily resolved. And that's one of the things that I thought was notable. Now, you know, you look at the Eagles, that won the Super Bowl, and there was no, you know, these press conferences that Howie has had, like before the draft in recent years since Joe left, they don't feature another personnel guy like they used to. You know, it used to be Joe and, you know, before him, the other guys, they don't do that anymore. They bring Nick up there with Howie, and Nick's not really a personnel guy.
Nope.
He has some say in it, but he doesn't scout players or anything like that. So this is interesting, having Joe back in the farm. Of course, they lost a guy this week to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the spot Joe's taking. I don't have anything against Joe. I think he's a pretty solid evaluator. His tenure with the Jets obviously was not a success. That Aaron Rodgers trade, I don't think the Eagles are going to let him trade for Aaron Rodgers, so I think we're safe there. That was a Hail Mary. It didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're talking about stuff like this, I always think about what's really the personnel person and what's the ownership, you know.
Yes.
And the ownership with the Jets is Woody Johnson, and he's an idiot. And I think it's hard for anybody. You know, nobody's done well there since Joe Namath had good knees. I was a kid growing up in North Carolina the last time the Jets were really something. I don't blame the Jets on Joe necessarily. He didn't fix it, but I'm not sure it was fixable. I think he's somebody that's good to have around. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be usurping Howie or anything like that, but I think his is a solid voice. What I remember about him is he was all about guys that can – we've just come out of the Chip Kelly era. Yeah. Where there was all this emphasis on things like arm length and, you know, they were measuring, you know, calves and things like that, you know, to try to figure out which guys they should draft. And that certainly has its place. But Joe's thing was, I want guys who have played a lot of football and are good football players, guys who played a lot of college games, who, you know, really love football. You don't have any doubts about their dedication. You're not taking a flyer on their athleticism, but, you know, even though they don't really want to play football.
JJ Whiteside.
Yeah, you're going to go get guys that are good football players who you know what you're getting. And sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. There were guys that got drafted in that period that weren't in fact, Arcega-Whiteside was drafted during that period. That was Jeffrey Lurie's baby, apparently. But certainly they didn't draft as well as they've drafted the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody has, maybe ever.
Yeah.
But they were better drafts than the Chip Kelly draft. So
Not
I'm
saying
okay
much.
with Joe coming back. Joe's a good guy. I think I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I think that'll be, for some reporters, that'll be a way into getting a little better idea of what the front office is thinking, because Joe's not as tight-lipped as maybe some people are.
True. Yeah. Good point.
But
Very, very good point.
I'm okay with it. I don't think it's gonna oh boy, we got Joe Douglas back.
No.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. SAM here, it says as a comment, it is my understanding Joe Douglas had considerable favors as power concerning pro scouting. It was well known some of the 1 year free agent success stories during the initial Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Due in part to him. So that's what I always like. If that's true, if he has a big influence in pro scouting, then that's awesome, because that 2017 Super Bowl was pretty much essentially because of free agency, right? Nothing from the draft. Where I always, and I've never trying to be overly critical of him. I don't have sources like that. I'm not plugged into the organization.
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't know great detail what's going on behind the scenes other than what's reported, right? So that's all I have to contribute to that aspect. But I always wondered, because during that tenure, 2016 2019, and I'll bring up, this is the draft classes, right? 2016, you could say was pretty good. It was solid because we got Wentz, and then you have only a round 3 pick, which is Isaac Seumalo, who was a good guard, and then day 3, which you got Big V, who was our swing tackle, and then Jalen Mills, who was a starting corner for us for years. So you can say that's a good draft. I would agree with that.
And even Smallwood, he had.
Oh yeah, it was.
He was for a 5th round pick. He was all right.
So I like that. That draft is fine. 2017. That was an utter disaster, and I know people will say Derek Barnett worked out. I will be of the
no, he did
not for where he was drafted, not for 14th overall. He did not work out.
Exactly. When the highlight of your Eagles tenure was recovering a fumble that you did not even force in the Super Bowl, that's the best thing you got, then that's bad.
I will say though that he had a good rookie year. Yeah, he actually played well that year. He just didn't, I don't know why he didn't develop. And he's not a terrible player now for the Texans. But
who was a better Eagle, Vinny Curry or Derek Barnett?
Vinny
Curry.
Vinny was more durable and played.
Where did we pick Vinny Curry?
Second round. Yeah.
Second round.
Yeah, and if Derek Barnett had been a 2nd round pick, I wouldn't have had a problem with that at all.
Yeah, they somewhere in day 2, yeah. And
I really liked the Sidney Jones pick at the time. I
did too.
Yeah, I think we all did last year.
I thought that was really smart.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was ever that good, though. That was back in the time when Howie was really into the Pac-10.
Yeah.
And was Sidney Jones ever really that good? I don't know.
He was probably better before he tore his Achilles, and then
I guess. But
I think throwing him out there the last week of the season was pointless. It was not helping the development.
Clearly, Schwartz didn't ever want to use him. That was one of the problems. But
it was same with Rasul Douglas. It's when they left, both of those corners actually did better when they left.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Sewell's still in the league.
Yep.
And he's a very good short, cover 2 type corner. He's just not a guy that you want to go 1-on-1 with the fast receiver down the field.
I also
don't think Sewell was just fine.
Yeah.
I just don't think they knew how to develop young players defensively at that point.
That's a good.
Schwartz was a very good defensive coordinator. Here's what he didn't know how to do. He didn't know how to put people in their best positions.
Well, this is one of the things. I 100% agree with you. I think part of it is because I said this before, and why, although I love Schwartz, I get a little bit annoyed when people act like he was an incredible defensive coordinator.
No.
He stuck to his team and he did not budge. Like the misuse of a Rasul Douglas and so many other corners. But Rasul Douglas was a perfect example. You got a cover 2 corner, it's stuck in a cover 3 scheme, and never like the defensive coordinator refused to play anything else.
Yeah.
So that was
when Malcolm Jenkins has to basically slap you on the head and be like, "Let's fix some crap" in the middle of the season, you're not doing your job.
So yeah, I mean,
And you look at the rest of that draft. Like Matt Collins has fashioned a really interesting career, but he wasn't very good here. Weird guy. He had a lot of opportunities here, and he never really stepped forward. But he's had his moments certainly since then. Pumphrey was a horrible. Pumphrey was the. Whenever I look at, I'm sorry, I'm kind of hijacking this, but you're something now that I really like to talk about.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear going into a draft that a certain position is really, really deep, I think about Donnell Pumphrey, because running back that year was supposed to be a great position, and the Eagles kept punting, their pick of a running back, thinking, we'll get to, we can wait another round for this. We'll be all right. And they ended up losing like 3 guys that they wanted, and then trading up to draft Donnell Pumphrey, who the minute I saw him, I thought, because if you're going to be a little running back, you have to be really built. And I've said this before, I think, on the show. You have to be built like Sproles or Westbrook, a little fire plug guy with a really strong lower body. A tiny little running back with slender hips. No.
Not going to do it. Yeah.
And he was never an NFL player. It was just a disaster. I don't know how the hell he was the all-time NCAA rushing leader, but he must have had great blocking or something.
College, right?
He was just not very good. And then there was the guy Nate Gary that Schwartz really loved.
Whitesnake,
who could not play. A good special teams player, but that was it. Had no business.
He had a really cool visor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that class was an utter disaster.
And the next class was great, So
yeah. I have PTSD thinking back to that draft and looking at all the running backs that came out to be, and like the one guy I wanted the most was
the Dalvin Cook draft, right?
Yeah, Dalvin Cook. Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, so CMC, Kareem Hunt. Aaron Jones. I'm missing people. I'm missing other people.
Didn't the Eagles? It wasn't a big rumor that the Eagles really wanted Dalvin Cook, and
there was a big rumor about that. But I heard that they really wanted Jones too. That they had done a lot of medical research into Jones, and they were confident that he'd be all right. And I'm not sure that he wasn't all right medically. I just think he didn't turn out to be a very good player.
I'm that class. So, but if you go past that, 2018 was a good draft. I qualify as
phenomenal draft.
One of the best 5-player drafts you're ever going to see. They didn't 100%. Have numbers, but they, with no first-round pick, I think that's an excellent draft.
Yeah, excellent draft. So I love that draft. 2019.
2019.
Ironically,
2019 happened.
That was awful. I've told you the whole Andre Dillard story about that.
Got Miles Sanders and then some guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even a fan of Andre Dillard. Well, a lot of people loved the Andre Dillard pick. To me, I had a second round grade on him because of his lack of strength, and that kind of was his downfall. He just could not have
that. Had just not really being a gung ho guy, just not a guy that really wanted to get after it. And Arcega-Whiteside was a second-round pick. They had 2 second-round picks that year, and boy, they'll use a second-round pick on a guy he was maybe would have been a good 5th-round pick or something, and Sharif Miller was a huge disappointment.
I still remember getting blocked on Twitter by Sharif Miller because I told him we want to see what you can do in the NFL. He's like, how dare you tell me what I can and can't be? I'm like, because you suck.
Yeah.
You're a 5th-round pick from Penn State.
And then that Clayton Thorson pick. Oh my god.
Well, I mean,
Thorson.
whenever we pick a guy from Penn State, they all come crawling out of the woodwork.
Tony
are.
Hunt.
Yeah.
You guys remember Tony Hunt from Penn State?
Yeah, I remember
God.
Tony.
Yeah.
Oh God, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So my point being, the reason why I brought this up is because that during these years with Joe Douglas,
Yeah, I know.
the draft has been up and down,
Yep.
and I'm not even talking about like little bit. I'm talking about like either really good or just like really bad.
I
And
That's
agree.
because his philosophies just were always changing. Like it's either all right, all I care about are guys who produce in college, or give me guys with nothing but traits.
I don't know if I agree with
I don't
that.
think Joe ever said that
Yeah.
about
I don't,
trades.
yeah, I don't think I agree with
I
that.
think he was about production. Donnell Pumphrey had the best production you could possibly have in college.
Yeah.
He set the all-time rushing record, but
Yeah,
maybe that isn't like a magic formula. It's
Yeah.
just, a good thing among many other things that you
If
look
only
at.
there was a school that we could have drafted from with signature success stories year after year.
That'll be another topic for another day. But yeah, I'm with Les on it. I don't think it had so much to do with him changing philosophies. I think it's the opposite. I think like during that period, they were so hung up on production and numbers instead of what they say their philosophy is now, where they talk about traits. Like they constantly target guys who have high relative athletic scores. And so like that wasn't the case during this 4-year period. So like
Also leadership seems to be a big factor for them.
big factor is leadership. Yes. So I just don't know. Like I'm not trying to crap on Joe Douglas because again, I don't know just how good he is or not.
I just don't think he's that great.
I don't know.
I don't think he's great. He wouldn't be
Yeah.
here in an advisory role if he was great.
Exactly. So like I push back when people are like when people say like Joe Douglas is this like incredible front office evaluator and everything like that. Like I just say like let's pump the brakes because I don't when he was here, it's not like we
were not that great at a drafting team.
Yeah, so
we also don't really know what his role is going to be.
We don't, but I just think it's
really
funny.
be a big part of the front office, or is he parking himself here for a year or two until he gets another shot at a GM job? He hopes, or something else.
When he was here, though,
in sports,
all you heard was, "Oh, you see the good 2018 draft? That was a Joe Douglas draft. All those bad
because no one respected Howie at that point.
Those were Howie drafts.
Yeah, no one respected Howie. That's like what I'm speaking to is that like people criticize Howie, but like so Joe Douglas got a pass. So that's what I always was
because he's a football guy.
So I think that with all I've seen in terms of his role so far is that he's a senior scouting role. He's in a senior scouting role.
It could be like Tom Donahoe was when he was here.
Very true. Yeah,
refusing to fist bump Howie.
That Williams is going to be bad.
That's funny. We got some stuff in the chat. I know SB Senior says Mills should have been drafted higher. Dalvin Cook had character issues coming out of college. I think those were overblown. I remember that. I think that was very overblown. The character issues.
There were like rumors of stuff that was never substantiated.
Yeah.
Like
Joe Mixon was another running back that was at draft. I'm forgetting the draft class. Talk about character issues.
That
was the one guy who had the red.
Yeah, he punched a girl in 2 separate years into oblivion. Everyone's like, "Yeah, man. So when are we drafting him?" And I'm just like, never.
So he went in the second instead of the first because he can play.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean that class was sacked. But anyways, yeah. So that's my spiel on Joe Douglas. I don't know, like, Brinks. I don't know if you've had like what your viewpoint on.
No,
on
I don't care that Joe Douglas is here. I wouldn't care if Joe Douglas isn't here. If he wants to come on and try and redeem himself from the Jets disaster because he did not do a good job in New York, even outside of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you put together a team that just quit last season, they were absolute dogs. Like, that's not a good look. So he's going to try and come here and rebuild his reputation and then One of these dumb teams will probably hire him as a GM. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. I don't care. If he comes to come hang out, try and repeat with us, cool.
Yeah. Les, I wanted to get your thoughts on one other topic before we let you go. It's a very, I don't know if we're all going to agree or disagree, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm on an island here. But we've got the spring meetings with the owners.
Yes.
And there are a few rule changes that we voted on. I know the popular one is the tush push. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I don't think there's any reason to really dive into that again. I think we all know our positions. I think I'm with you. I think that it's going to get changed. Whatever. I don't care at this point about the tush push. And it is what it is. The rule that interests me the most is the playoff seeding rule. The reason why I say that is because for years, since even like around when I started watching football in the early 2000s, I personally have always had the stance that the playoff seeding should be by record. I never agreed with division winners getting a home game automatically. I never agreed with that. So when this rule change came, the proposal came, I have, as you can predict, I've been on board with changing it. But that's because I've always wanted to change it. I know there are a lot of people who are against it because they feel the NFL is being too overreactionary. It's not an instance or scenario that comes to play often or has that big of an effect. And they think that division rivalries will get reduced and you need to have more incentive or reward of winning your division, so on and so forth, which I totally understand. But my stance is I think it's a better process just to have the seeding based on record. I think that getting a playoff game is good enough reward for any division winner. And I think that I agree with it leads to better, more on the line, more games, games toward the end of the year that with stuff on the line if you seed it this way. So that's my stance. Les, what is your viewpoint of the rule how it is, and do you think would you prefer it to be changed or not?
I agree with you. I think I don't mind changing it at all. I don't think winning a division is anything that, like you said, you get the home game to start with. You're talking about reseeding after the first, right?
Yeah. So like if you get
you get the original home game, and I'm totally fine with that. Best record absolutely should be the criterion after that. I don't understand why they haven't done that before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. All right, so you do agree with me, Brinks. What do you think on what's your position on it?
Whatever. As long as they're not changing who qualifies for the playoffs, as long as the 4 division winners get in, and then there's 3 wild cards, 7, which I hate. The best sports, not even football, the best sports weekend of the year was when it was 6 teams in each conference, and it was the divisional round weekend. And you had the 2 teams with byes were coming to play, and whoever survived the wild card round. And it was 2 games on Saturday, and it was 2 games on Sunday, and they're all big-time matchups. So that's my spiel on that. But as long as they don't change the way, like, if you win the division, you should be in the playoffs. If you want to make them the 7 seed because they went 7-10 somehow and won a division, which, by the way, I'm against changing rules for something that happens like once every 50 years. I know it happens more often than 50 years, but very rarely does this happen. Yeah. Does this occur? But if you want to protect yourself and have be the fairest way for the reseeding, like whatever. I mean, and the tush push is getting banned, so
yeah.
I'm very soured. I'm very soured on this topic. If the Packers were good at the tush push, and the Eagles weren't, and the Eagles complained, I feel like everyone would laugh in our face. Say stop.
Yeah. Well, they just look stupid.
I'm with you.
So now the Green Bay Vince Lombardi Packers have a problem with like the purity of the game Now we
Mhm.
have like this convention. We've had 2 separate votes on it. It's a
Mhm.
total joke. It's a kangaroo,
It is.
and it's getting
Yes.
banned,
Yeah.
and it's nonsense.
It is nonsense. PY, what's your thought on the playoff seeding? Cool.
I don't know. I just think it's stupid. Like they're all talking about, oh, you need like a winning team to be in the playoffs, and you shouldn't lose your home game because of a divisional. But like, then what's the point of winning your division?
Getting
Like
a playoff
what's
game.
You get in the playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs.
like obviously, but like I think if you win your division, you should get a home game. Like I'm sorry, like I understand like the thought process and everything, but like the NFL is just trying to overcomplicate things, and they're looking for ways to dominate the airwaves right now because they're throwing all these things out, and they're like, oh man, it's May, let's talk.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree with you. I think it's reward enough that you get in the playoffs, but I know there are people that are passionate about it. I will say that if it doesn't get passed, I don't think it's a huge deal. But for me personally, I'm at least being consistent. I've wanted this changed for 20 plus years, so I'm not being overreactionary. I've wanted this, so I'm just being consistent.
Hasn't it happened 4 times, and each
I think
time,
it's like 4 times.
and each time, I think the team that supposedly shouldn't have had the home game because they had a worse record advanced.
Yeah, I know the one obvious one was Seattle.
Yeah,
with
the
Beast
Marshawn Lynch earthquake.
Yeah, they had the home playoff game. They had a worse record, and they advanced. They beat the Saints. So, yeah, this is. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Les, we appreciate you coming on as always. We will
Great to be here, guys.
Heads up now. We will Memorial Day as usual. We take a break, so no show next week. So we'll reconvene in June, and in June, that's when I start. We will start our positional rankings, kind of the summer series, and have some fun with that. So,
good. Okay,
it'll be very interesting.
Sounds great.
Yeah. All right, Les. I will see you on Twitter.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you later. Bye, Les.
Have a good week. Take care.
That is Les. Bone on the Birds with Eagles Talk. Always appreciate him. SB Senior says, forget the touch push run power I formation. I know a lot of Eagles fans are they're tossing out like, just put Ty Robinson at fullback.
It's the principle of the thing that pisses me off. If you want to not do the play anymore, and you think it's not safe or illegal or not fair or whatever, that's fine. But you can't sit here and look me in the face and say that it's the Eagles that have found a way to get a competitive advantage. Other teams run this play all the time, and they
just suck at it, like the Bills
all the time.
Yeah,
because it's this, and it's Philadelphia. There's
and Packers also suck at it.
Emphasis on getting it out, and it's a kangaroo court.
Why don't you just practice more and try and be better at the play that you think?
Because we live in America, and people are lazy. Teams are lazy. Workers are lazy. Everybody's lazy. They just want a handout from the government. It's nonsense.
Whoa, hey!
Instead of working hard, you either get better yourself at the play or figure out a way to stop the play. You just want to go cry to Mama Goodell and get it banned. Like a bunch of pussies.
You know what I find funny is that, and PY, we've talked about this, right? So this is nothing new with us, but back when Tom Brady played, he was nearly unstoppable in QB sneak.
Yep. Back 98% or something ridiculous.
Back when the Eagles had Carson Wentz, people don't remember Carson Wentz was nearly unstoppable with the QB sneak.
They were 100% in 2017.
Yeah. I remember. I'm like, yo, QB sneaking all day. Carson
They
Wentz
were 90. I think they were 90, 97 or 98% in 2021 with it. And as an average for the tush push, they're 92%. So they're 92% with the tush push, and they're what? 97%. They don't use the tush push, and they're just using a regular QB sneak. So, once we start killing it with the QB sneak again, what are we going to do? Ban the QB sneak?
Yeah. I 100% believe that after this is banned, the Eagles are still going to be better than any other team.
Yeah.
We're still going to be find a way to have like a 90+% conversion rate on 3rd or 4th and 1. But because we're still
Tell your
we're still gonna
QB to
spend-
get in
you know
the
what it is?
goddamn
You know what it is,
gym.
guys? You know why we're so good at it? Because we spend the time to work on it. Just like you
Yeah.
said, like you don't think that this O line and Jeff Stoutland and Jalen Hurts, they're not going to work on being just as good at a QB sneak without a push. They're going to be. You're absolutely going to be. So yeah,
It's not our fault your QB's legs are chicken legs. I can't help you with that.
So here's what it's going to get banned. But
To get back to the viewer's comment, just run power I. Yeah, like you just said, Chuck. So they're going to do that, and they're going to be pretty good at it. We have a right side of the offensive line that's 100% in their prime of Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, 2 Pro Bowlers, if not all pros, consensusly. So yes, they're going to be fine, and they're going to get it almost every time with the power I. But it's the principle of the thing that we're having this vote over this play because other teams just suck at it, and we work hard on to be good at.
Yeah.
It's such losers.
I agree. I 100% agree. I think it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We're still going to.
What else do they vote?
Yeah,
they're voting on something else that I have.
So the other thing I just saw the information on it. They're voting on a tweak to the onside kick, so that teams could attempt it at any time while they're trailing, not just the 4th quarter, and then also the kicker would line up 1 yard closer to the line. So they're trying to. I don't know if this will improve anything, but I do appreciate them trying to tweak it to get success out of it. I think I don't want the onside kick to be like this super successful play, obviously, but I think the rate at which it is at now is gone way too extreme. I think you need to tweak it a little bit just to have a tiny bit more success. I think how it was before was obviously just that was perfect, but with the dynamic kickoff, you can't do that obviously. So you've got to keep tweaking it to find a way to have it back to where it was. So I do appreciate that. I mean, we'll see if that gets passed. I'd be okay with it, but
I don't like any rule that dictates when I can and cannot do a play. You should be able to do an onside kick if you're up by 50, down by 50, down by 3, up by 3, tied. Doesn't matter. That's gamesmanship. That's competitive advantage. If you see something in your opponent that you can take advantage of, you should be able to take advantage of it at any point during the game. The other stuff, I like the dynamic kickoff stuff.
I do.
That was good because now you get returns sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I don't think it's working out the way the NFL had hoped.
No,
though.
I mean the Eagles.
Wait.
No, because
teams
have different perspectives.
I didn't say it's not working out. I'm saying I don't think it's working out the way the NFL had originally hoped. I think they thought that.
No, they thought they thought everyone was going to be like, I'm not giving the ball to the team on the 30. I'm going to play my game and try and cover the return. But the Eagles don't give a shit because they just have Jake Elliott or whoever's kicking off kick it clear out of the end zone anyway. They don't care about starting.
Yeah, and I think they did tweak it, that rule. So now if you do touchback, it gets further up, another 5 yards. So that might incentivize teams not to kick it out of the end zone anymore.
So it's at the 35 now?
Yeah. So now that'll incentivize teams to really avoid that even more. So I like the dynamic kickoff. I think right off the bat we saw more returns, and we saw.
I don't like that. I don't like that 5 yard thing though. 30s.
Yeah, but then you have to have, because then teams like the Eagles will just keep kicking out of the end zone. So you have to give them a reason to not do that.
But didn't they start all this nonsense because returns weren't safe and it was too much of a collision?
Well, that's why
bring it back. But
that would still be in place here because the two teams wouldn't be able to move until it's touched, and they would still be further up. So it's the same thing, except for if it's a touchback, it's not at the 30, it's at the 35. So that
I'm going to go back to 1990, whatever the rules were in 1995.
That's not gonna happen.
That's what we should do.
It's not going back to that. They're trying to make it safer, which I understand. That's why I like the dynamic kickoff. People poked fun at it and thought it was stupid, but it worked. There were more kickoff returns. There were kickoff return touchdowns. I think there was a kickoff return touchdown in week 1. So it's working. Just keep tweak it again to make it even more effective. And I think that it does. It's doing its job. So I do like the dynamic kickoff, regardless of people making fun of it before.
Like,
I think
you know what I'm saying with okay, the Eagle, you can only run the ball if you're winning the game. If you're losing, you have to.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. No, I absolutely hear you, and I 100% understand that perspective. So should the onside kick be where it's an option that you can do it at any point? I would agree with you on that. Stop doing it to where stop limiting the conditions of you can only do it if you're trailing.
But if you limit it, it's a surprise play. It's a trick play.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's coming. It's not going to work.
No, but I agree on that point. But at the same time, you can't do a dynamic kickoff and do an onside kick. You can't have both elements because the dynamic kickoff, the teams are I forget what yard line, but they're not at where you need to be for an onside kick. You can't have both of them. So I would rather. It sucks not being able to have the trick play or the surprise element of the onside kick. 1,000%. That part 100% sucks. I hate that. But
why can't the ref just use his brain and be like, oh, they just did an onside kick. We're gonna they get the ball there, and the dynamic rule doesn't count there. Why can't we just be people and have the refs use their judgment and be like, okay,
what do you mean
exactly? How it went down? This is how we're going to call it.
I don't understand how you expect that to.
You're saying because right now the teams have to go over to the ref and say, hey, we're doing an onside kick, because they have to line up for an onside kick, which you're not allowed to do because of the dynamic kickoff rule.
Yes, correct.
That's your point.
Because the teams are lined up at different parts of the field.
1995, man. I can't even comprehend 1995. Whatever the onside kick rules were in 1995, let's do that.
That's with the kickoff. But the kickoff, the thing is, they're going
and to. I guess I'm against the dynamic kickoff thing.
Yeah, I guess you are. But like I said, they're trying to make it safer. Which
they want the kickoffs of 95 without the injuries of 95. That's the whole purpose.
But they don't care about safety. They say they
do. They clearly do. Otherwise, they would just let people keep getting hurt.
They are 100% hypocritical with it. That doesn't mean I'm going to knock them for doing something that does show player safety. Does that make sense? I know they're 100% hypocritical. I know there's a lack of genuinity when it comes to we care about player safety. They really don't. But this specific rule is geared toward player safety.
It's actually good for player safety.
I'm not going to get rid of something good just because I feel like the league isn't being genuine about it. I like this rule in terms of player safety. I think it's not perfect, but I will take the trade-off, because if you speak to a lot of former players, a lot of injuries happen from that kickoff. Because you're running, it's literally like a car crash with cars going 60 miles an hour at each other. It's a very unsafe play. So I completely understand it. And now, does it suck having to sacrifice the surprise element of an onside kick? It 100% sucks, but I'd rather sacrifice that than sacrifice player safety. Does that make sense? You're gonna have to trade off one or the other. The league is evolving, and I think the dynamic kickoff is a good stepping stone to bringing kickoffs back. And it is. You just gotta figure out how to fix the onside kick to whatever degree you can. It's never gonna be what it was, but you can at least try to tweak it to make it a little bit more successful. So that's how I see it. It's not perfect. No rule changes are gonna ever be perfect, but
nope.
It is what it is. Gentlemen, like I said, we had a lot to talk about today, and we got through it really well. So good job, good discussions. To those who are listening, like I said earlier, we are going to be off next week, Memorial Day. So enjoy the holiday. We will be back first Monday of June, and we will get into our summer series topics, which are always just fun, and we will talk about positional rankings and go into that. So should be a lot of fun, a lot of debate, a lot of good discussion, especially with our different age groups here. Especially with us. So definitely tune into that in 2 weeks. Thank you to our sponsor again, Baggio's Bread. Make sure you mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. For myself, for Brinks, for DY, all of us at A2D Radio. Thank you. Yeah, SB Senior, have a great holiday to you too. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good Memorial Day. Peace out.
Peace.